Welcome to today's edition of SIG Instrumentation. It is Thursday, January 21st, 2021. Frederick, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Let me actually go backwards on our agenda because this one's just an announcement, I guess. Prometheus Kubernetes adapter has finally, I don't know exactly what the last threshold is. It's been accepted for a long time, but there were some legal issues in terms of the contributor license agreement or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Those legal issues have been resolved. So that's really awesome. This is, I think we've had this in like pending state for 3 months or so. So it's good to have this kind of closed finally. And I believe our next point is actually somewhat related, because I think Mark did a pretty cool proof of concept using it. Is that right?
Yeah. Do we want to go through second point with Elena, or?
I guess maybe
we can do that later.
We can do last. Yeah.
You need to present, right? I'll give you a co-host.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, you should be able to present now.
Okay. Oh, I need to present full screen. That's not very nice, but okay, maybe. Is it okay?
Yeah, we
can you see my screen?
Yep. Looks
okay.
Good.
So let me discuss. So let me talk about the demo that I did. So hey, to those who don't know me, I'm Mark. I currently own the Metrics server. I'm one of the owners of Metrics server. So one of the common things and common question is why kubectl top is that way, that and it only shows me CPU and memory and nothing else. Why can it be more? And all those questions. So usually our answer was it shows that way because it's a way for us to display you core metrics, which are metrics that we use for auto scaling, and we don't expose anymore. And after last week, when I got the same question about GPU metrics on some, I think, exactly Prometheus adapter issue, I finally got it. Why we cannot do this? Because no one started work on it, and no one just did it. So what is the overall idea? Implement a new those are just temporary commands, but you implement kubectl top metrics, name can be changed, that gives you a list of all metrics that you have defined. Those definitions already exist in Kubernetes APIs. Those are just the custom metrics that I think you need to have them. You need to have a Prometheus adapter that is configured, or any other adapter that serves custom metrics. So the only thing that I have is this is served by you have this API, and that's all. So you get all the information. So currently, I have configured my adapter to serve some custom metrics. Let me know if interesting to help. And it adds metrics about pods. So let's see, there are some based one pod CPU, but I don't know, I could display threads. Threads are important. So kubectl top usually has some has a way to define your custom columns. So you could technically get any object in Kubernetes and define your own columns and take any field. So I did something similar for kubectl top. So you define kubectl top, normally gets you those are not important because it's a demo, and you specify and my demo will break. Yeah, sorry, I can't remember. Okay, this should work, or I made a mistake.
I think the output says custom metrics in options.
What do you mean? Yeah, so
you've got options, and the flag name is custom dash metrics, I think.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you're pretty. Yeah, thanks for noticing. Yeah, I changed the name because it made more sense. So with that, you can do things like that, and those are just this is the result that we would expect with normal columns, just extended to any metric that you define. And I think that's all for the demo. Like, I have a PR I can link, but not from this computer, and this PR is a POC. If someone wants
that's amazing.
Sponsor it more or get involved, that would be.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
One question that I have, or I mean, so I think last time we talked about kubectl top, there was somewhat of a consensus to do only server-side printing and just do so that we end up doing something like kubectl get pod metrics and then just use server-side printing for this. I think this was even implemented. So I have no problem with changing our direction. It's just a side note that we had previously thought of a different direction. If we can think of a way to do server-side printing with this, I would be super happy about that, but I'm not married to that thought.
Yeah, so
just to clarify, to ask the question, so this is all implemented at the in the kubectl client. It's happening on the client side, not okay.
No changes in underneath. I can use normal. Sorry, I start presenting. So underneath, I just have a Prometheus operator with the adapter that I edited the configuration that is the default configuration. So that may be one problem with server-side printing, that one difference in top is that it's the only really custom command that we have in kubectl, which is when compared to get, delete, that's the result of this. It's really custom and really not touched for last 4 years. I removed last time I removed hipster implementation in it. So one thing is that having such pages requires talking with multiple APIs, which can be implemented by multiple components. So server-side printing would be complicated, integrative server-side printing complicated because there is no only component for this because there is no single API when compared to other methods that are, because they are based on the API and not abstraction over metrics.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. As I said, I don't feel too strongly about it. It was just what we had previously thought about. I personally, I don't know how many people actively use the custom metrics API. I find it. I actually had this topic in a previous meeting, which we didn't get to, but I find it awkwardly non-ergonomic. I tend to always just use the external metrics API because I just get to query exactly Prometheus essentially. But I think this work is really cool, and I think we should try to have something like this because I really like the user experience of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one benefit, or I think there's two major things that have a benefit for custom metrics. First is that I only implemented top pods, but you could have a kubectl top deployment, kubectl top namespaces. Namespaces is I just would need to copy code and duplicate, or make it generic at some point, make it generic. So this is out of the box. And second thing, I think I don't know external API or I haven't crafted, but but for custom API, it's enough to know about the object to build the proper query. For external API, I was thinking, like, my first idea was with custom columns was having a more DSL, like similar to how adapter defines how it translates custom API into Prometheus metrics. Having something like this more, but this is pretty to have user side or like local machine your own definitions of how you translate metrics. But this is somewhat problematic without. Yeah, this is a problem because you change a cluster and it doesn't have some metrics and it doesn't work. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Do we have
that
any
makes
other
sense.
questions? I open it to the floor on Frederick's behalf because I have hijacked the meeting. I want to do cap review if we can try to at least get some of that done. So we good? Okay, I will share my screen. Not that one. I think this one. Yeah. So for those who are following along at home, I just clicked on this open caps link, which is at on the first page of our agenda talk. So we've got 7 open caps, and they're all in various stages. And I wanted to let people know that, so previously in other release cycles, basically the enhancements team would come to us. And so they would say like, hey, you know, like they would check in on every single enhancement. And in the 121 release, that has become like way too heavy touch for them because there are like, I think, you know, there's like 200 enhancements in this repo or something like that being tracked right now. It's too much work for them. So they have asked all of the SIGs to instead come up with their list of the things that the SIG is going to work on and like the points of contact for each of those caps. So we only have 7 things. We're in pretty good shape. I'm also tracking the SIG node caps, and there's like 50 of those. So we're mostly okay, but we've got a bunch of stuff here that we need to go through and decide what we're going to get done in the 121 release. And I know that not everybody who has one of these caps is in on this meeting, and I know that these folks, for example, have been targeting alpha in 121. So I don't know that we necessarily need to go over that one. But for all of the other caps here, do we just want to go over them one by one? There's not that many.
Yeah, I actually have a question for something that's not on this.
If it's
thing.
not on here, you need to make an issue so we can track it.
My question is whether I need to make one of these. I don't know if I need to make one.
What is your thing? Is it a cap?
Well, I don't know if it should be a cap. Like, so the metric stability stuff is basically done, but we want to start promoting metrics to
stable metrics. I think that should be a cap because we need to talk about like we need to go and poke other groups about picking stable metrics, and we need to provide guidelines for the stable metrics and whatnot. I think it should be a cap just because there's going to be a bunch of stuff written down. There's going to be a bunch of stuff discussed. And so it would be better to have a doc.
We've actually, like, we talked about one specific one last week, which was the etcd object counts.
Yes.
And basically, I talked to APIs.
So we just make an issue for this now.
Like, no, yeah, I did just make an issue for it.
Oh,
I actually, yeah, I did make an issue for it. Yeah, and you volunteered.
Oh no! So that issue is in the KK repo. There needs to be one in K enhancements if we're gonna do a cap.
No, but why does that need to be a cap?
Because it's not just going to be the API server that we're picking stable metrics for, right? It's going to be.
We don't choose stable metrics.
No, exactly. We need to tell this like various other SIGs how to choose stable metrics and tell them they, should start doing that this release if we don't have instructions for them to do so. Like I kind of like we should have like review process for it, right? I kind of don't want to just like open the floodgates and let random SIGs pick things as stable, not understanding what that means, and then we get like stuck with bad metrics.
I hear you, except like there isn't anything that we would be doing. So like caps are
We would be
usually for like,
reviewing, right?
it would be more of like a protocol as opposed to like, this is what we are. It's not like we're going to build something.
Well, we need enforcement mechanisms for that stuff, right? Like, do we have
We
any
do
right now?
already.
We have
So
them.
we built
Yeah,
those all
they're
in.
already in place.
They're done. We
Yeah.
haven't tested them.
Yes.
Have we tested them? We don't have any stable
No,
metrics.
they're tests.
We
We have tests.
Okay.
Merrick wrote some
There are
tests.
tests, but we like haven't added one, so you could say
Yes.
that first one will be still an experience.
I mean, we can literally just test this without doing this. We can just. I at one point
Han,
tested it.
here's why I think that this should have a cap. I think this should have a cap because while each component owner needs to pick their own stable metrics, we need somebody to coordinate that effort. And we also need to make sure that like we don't randomly miss something, because if it's like, oh yeah, we've got the API server and we've got like some stuff from the kubelet, but like everything else, you know, there's no stable scheduler metrics. Haha. Like that's not a good user experience. And so I think if our goal is to go and do a bunch of stable metrics this release, we should coordinate that, in which case that has to go through SIG instrumentation. So we should have a cap. It doesn't have to be super heavyweight cap. Like I don't think there's any PRR review even required for this one, but we should have some sort of centralized tracking point for coordination. And trying to do that piecemeal issue by issue in the KK repo is going to be really confusing for people.
Okay.
I guess there's like two things. One thing is the guidance we want. Like there are three things actually in my mind. One thing is like we want to give people in different component to like a guidance on which are the what are the metrics should be considered as stable. That's the one thing. The second thing is should we have like a centralized place to checking all the stable metrics if we want to promote them. The third thing is promote one specific metrics to for unstable one.
So the centralized thing is already exists, right? Like basically
Yes.
we have the static analysis thing, and like as soon as someone bumps the metric to stable, like it will like the.
I think we
pre-commit
actually
thing
have to
will
approve those, don't we? Did you
Yes.
set it up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So basically, no one can actually commit a stable metric without SIG instrumentation approval.
Okay.
So the two things that I think we should do is we should actually go through that process ourselves once. And once we've done that, we should send out an email to Kubernetes dev that this has been actually used now, and people, if people think there are metrics that should be stable metrics, then they can come to SIG instrumentation and present them or something, and then we can work towards adding them. My guess is that even like with etcd object counts, we're probably going to have to revise almost every metric that that goes stable in some way, right? Like even API server count, like request total. We already said there are a couple of things that we still want to change. So that, I don't know. That's just how I see what we should be doing, and I don't really feel like that requires a cap.
Yeah, it's like, it's not like, I mean, so like there is a cap already, right? But we've already marked it as closed and done, but it's kind of not done because like we haven't actually picked any of the metrics, and we've been getting a bunch of flack from other people for like, why are these lists empty? Where are the stable metrics?
And that's exactly what we're doing. We have an issue for elevating one.
Yeah, so my
I
concern
think-
is we don't have a tracking issue, and we like need to do coordination with a bunch of other SIGs, and we've not done anything like this before, and like the cube way of doing that is a cap.
What kind of coordination do you see happening?
We need to make sure that everybody is aware of it, and we need to make sure that like we're tracking who we want to get stable metrics from and when they are done, so that like we can call it feature complete, right?
The cap is just about the framework. The framework is complete.
I know the framework is complete. That's why it's done. But the problem is we haven't actually gone and done the work to like pick the stable metrics. So like all of the end users are like, we don't care about
that's a continuous thing.
Done.
That's something that will always happen. Like
Yeah, like you can create Prometheus, the framework, and you're done with it. But if no one
No.
uses
I
it
know
to
that we
create a
all think that
metric,
this is done, but the other groups who actually need to pick the stable metrics are not aware of any of this stuff. They don't have the context, they don't have the history, they don't know what to do.
I'm not disagreeing that we should be evangelizing this. I think we should. I agree.
and
But I don't think a cap is necessary for that.
yeah, and also I am actually evangelizing it for API machinery for the bulk of their metrics, because I have.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is we need to write this down somewhere, because if we don't have a, oh, we need to make sure Han goes to API machinery, Alana goes to Node, like Frederick goes to scheduling, I don't know. Like we don't have any.
That part I don't think needs to happen. Like that would mean that we need to do this on a quarterly basis or something. Like it's the same
I don't
as,
think we need to do
are
it on
you
a quarterly
adding,
basis, but I do think
like,
we
are
need to
you
do it
adding
at least
metrics in the
once.
first place, right? Like
So
we're not evangelizing that either. We have documentation for this, and we should have documentation for the
yes,
metrics
How about this?
as well.
Compromise position, a little bit of both. How about this? How about we do the testing before the next SIG instrumentation meeting, to ensure that the framework does exactly what we expect it to do. And then the next SIG meeting, we will appoint delegates to SIGs to go to that SIG meeting and to have like a brief announcement about what they would have to do in order to elevate their metrics to stable. Then like we can just like, people can volunteer to take a SIG and go.
So like I think maybe what I've been saying is kind of getting a little bit lost in the weeds. I am like not like excited about a cap for like the purpose of going and writing a doc or something like that. I have just done this. It is like quite heavyweight right now. That's not what I'm suggesting we do. The issue is that like from a Kubernetes release and end user standpoint, if like the goal is to make a bunch of stable metrics in this release, which there is, and that is my understanding of like the SIG's goal for this release is have some stable metrics, then like there needs to be one centralized point for tracking that. So like we can deal with release notes, and like the enhancements team knows who to talk to and like that kind of thing. And like if we don't, like, you know, there's like no other framework for tracking something like that other than like at least an issue in this repo.
No, but the thing is, these are going to be auto-generated. Like the release note stuff is literally a part of the framework. We have already built that. That part is actually.
No. I know that. I'm not talking about like the specifics of like end users contributing. I'm talking about the release team will have no way to know that this is going on if we don't have a cap, or at least an issue. It doesn't have to be even like a new thing. We could just refer back to like this cap exists. We are encouraging caps to make sure, or SIGs to ensure that they're picking things for this release, because this list is empty and we're getting a bunch of bugs filed about it, which is true.
Okay, I can try to draft something.